Hi, I'm Chris Haigh and this is the Fiddle channel, and today we're going to look at the Irish Washerwoman. This tune, the Irish Washerwoman, was a request for Poppy. And a few words of warning, Poppy. Irish Washerwoman is equally loved and hated among musicians. Why is it loved? It's one of the few tunes which the man or woman in the street knows this, or at least knows the title. And if they know that you play the fiddle and they want to request something, they'll say, can you play the Irish Washerwoman, not knowing a single other real jig, hornpipe or anything else remotely Irish. This is the tune they will ask for, and if you can't or won't play it, then you're obviously no good and you don't know anything. So this is the tune your granny might ask for. If you're playing on the street, someone might come up and ask for this. If you're sitting in a session with a bunch of experienced Irish musicians and you suggest to them, let's play the Irish Washerwoman, they may be very polite and say, yes, let's, and they're thinking to themselves, okay, Poppy, you are not an experienced player, but we're going to go along with this and pretend that we enjoy this tune. So it has to be treated with some care as to where and when you play it. And the other thing to know about it is that it's probably an English tune. It has certainly deep and varied roots in England, and it did appear in 1791 in a stage play or operetta called The Surrender of Calais, where it made fun of the Irish. It had words sung by a stage Irishman, and it was basically a stereotype of what English people supposedly think of Irish people. So it's a bit like the wagon wheel to old-time fiddle players in America. Actually, it's that wagon wheel is one of my most popular videos, but it tops the list of tunes which many people say they will never play ever. So I'm going to give you two versions of the Irish Washerwoman. One, a very simple one, although it's actually not the simplest tune to play. And the second one, a version of this which will slightly stretch and make it more interesting for the more experienced player, because it's my belief that no tune is too simple to make interesting. So we're going to start off with basic tune, and I'll give you a few ideas about bowing in particular. So it's a jig, it's in G, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's just pause there. The bowing, I normally do lots of slurs, but this tune I think should be mainly separate bows, but the important thing is that you don't do 6 equal bows. So it could be played, and that is a total giveaway that you've never played Irish music before. So try not to do that. The way I bow it is da 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 da, so an accent and a longer bow at the beginning of each 3, and make the next 2 as short as possible. So what I'm really thinking is down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and that is just being disturbed by the next 2 notes, which are really tiny bows. I'm just slurring the final 3 notes of the A section. So second half, last 4 bars. So, and that just gets you back to the right place, and it just feels really messy doing separate bows like that. So stay with separate bows, but make them very short and smooth as possible, and with that accent. So second half, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the place that is really quite difficult is this descending section. So open E, second finger, keep your second finger on, put your third finger down on the A string, and then that second finger has to move across so that it's now on both strings. So we're going, and then first finger on the A string, that's the way you should do it. Just practice those 2 bars around and round and round and round. There is another way of playing this which I would highly recommend actually, but we'll come to that in the second version. And then just finishing off. Okay, let's play all of that with the backing. Okay, now the second version I've added some slight variations and some ornaments. So we've got a slide, and a slide works well on a longer note, like a dotted crotchet in this case, and it's normally just slightly less than a semitone. So I'm putting my first and second finger down together actually, and they're starting about there, which is just slightly sharp of B, I think. And you don't normally do vibrato in Irish music, but in this case you might just do a little bit. There's room for some drones, open string drones, for example here. So for the, we're on bar 5, and the B's got a D under it, and then a G under that G and D note. We've got a roll, and a roll is like a turn in classical music. 2, 3, 2, 1, 2 in the case of this note, and I do have a video explaining the roll, and that should be played, the moving fingers should be done as fast as possible, and normally you do quite most of the notes before you actually start the roll. Okay, now the next bit I'm going to do a bowed triplet. So instead of 2 notes I'm putting 3 notes in, and I'm making them as short as possible. This is a variation. You can actually do lots of triplets in jigs. People tend not to, but they do work very well. So there's a little variation. Instead of, we're doing just extending 1 note, and I think once you know the skeleton of the tune, there's lots of places where you can just ever so slightly alter the way that the notes are fitted in. Okay, now this descending part, I think it's just as good to play rather than that, which is always a bit of a tangle on the fiddle. Just simplify it. and a nice little roll, and you could in fact do the roll there or wherever you like. Quite often people think when you're doing variation or ornamentation you're making it more complicated, but often a good variation is just to actually simplify. And if you've got a tricky bit and an unnecessarily tricky bit, then why not simplify it? So let's go all the way through that version. 1, 2, 3. And of course all of these variations are variable and movable, so you could play this tune over and over again and every time do it slightly differently by putting in more rolls, less rolls, more trebles, less trebles, all sorts of stuff you can do. So even though you might think I've played this tune more times than I actually ever want to, there's always actually with any tune ways of making it interesting for yourself, even if no one else cares or is listening. You can always entertain yourself by playing a tune better or differently. So if you would like a copy of the sheet music for this, then do subscribe to the channel and send me an email. I will send you a PDF. If you would like to help support these videos and their production, then do please consider joining me on Patreon. And on Patreon you can get all of my PDFs in one go, and that's possibly around 350 of them now, I think. That's quite a lot. And you can get backing tracks and one-to-one lessons as well if you join on the upper levels. So I hope I'll see you on there, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. I'll play you out at full tempo. Bye.